What I found is one of the biggest challenges most companies face is what is marketing. Like if they can solve their marketing, they could solve everything. There are only 8 elements of marketing really clear. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make 8 key elements that is going to change the way you market. So the first thing that we're going to answer, which is the toughest question that you always answer and you don't want to answer pretty much every time I ask you this question, is an antifragile is things that benefit from randomness, uncertainty, and variation. Things that benefit from randomness, uncertainty, and variation. And why I love this definition is because that's how life is. And that's how business is. It's random. It changes by the minute. If you have been advertisers, you know your life changed 6 months ago or a year ago because everything crashed and a lot of people went out of business. Because it's random. It happens, right? And it is very uncertain because nobody saw COVID coming. Nobody see the recession that is coming now, and it's already here for that matter. So it's uncertain. It's going to be uncertain. That's how life is. And it's constantly changing. Yesterday, we talked about how technology is adapting, and we don't even know all the technologies that are adapting because breakthroughs happen, and then it 10x itself in a matter of 10 years. The cost goes down by 100 times in a matter of 10 years. It's absolutely variable and transient and moves so fast that there's no way that you can predict what's going to really happen in a year from now. So how do we build a business on the foundation of that much randomness, that much variation, and that much uncertainty? Well, Antifragile gives us an understanding of that. So let's explore this a little bit more. In the author's words, antifragility is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same. The antifragile gets better. This property is behind everything that has changed with time: evolution, culture, ideas, revolutions, political system, technological innovations, cultural and economic success, corporate survival, good recipes, which is, yes, the rise of cities, cultures, legal system, equatorial forests, bacterial resistance, even our own existence as a species. Antifragile is how we are made, but antifragile is not how we operate. Human species is anti-fragile. That's why we keep evolving as time evolves. For the matter, we force time to evolve. We force society to evolve. We force culture to evolve. We force nature to evolve in many different ways. So good or bad, that doesn't matter. But it forces people to evolve, which means we are so anti-fragile, we are actually a reason why things change so fast. Right? So by nature, we are that. But in business, we are that not. Right? So let's understand what makes something anti-fragile. Right? What is it that we can make an anti-fragile life? And there are 10 rules that Nassim talks about. And so I'm going to lean into these 10 rules also to share with you how your businesses become anti-fragile. Okay? The first rule is stick to simple rules. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I'm a very simple man. I am very simple in my structures. I'm simple in my philosophy, simple with whatever I teach, simple with whatever I learn. And so that's one thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a really simple plan. Which may sound really, wow, are we going to really have a simple plan to be able to build an incredible business? Well, yes, you're going to see that in a second. You want to build redundancies in layers, which means there are things that you build within the system of what you're creating that allows you to not fail just because one thing failed. Okay? Because that's what happens when complete breakdown happens, is we let one thing fail the entire ecosystem. So what if we could build a system that does not depend on one idea or one item? It depends on multiple levels. The third rule is resist the urge to suppress randomness. And this is going to be some work that we will do. Thanks to Michael, you learned a lot of skills to how to do that today. But you need to learn the urge to say, oh, I need to get certain about this. I need to know what will happen next. Even if you will have a plan, a simple enough set of rules that will allow you to have a plan, you cannot negate that randomness will happen. You have no way out of it. Thank you for that, by the way. The fourth thing is key, and I think this one is sorted for each one of you, that you gotta have your soul in the game. Your soul needs to lead the effort. It cannot be your structure, it cannot be a science, it has to be your soul, because when things get hard, what's the only thing that will always survive and has always evolved? Our soul. The sixth rule is experiment and tinker, take lots of small risks. This is where you will see the system that I will share with you will allow you the capability of saying, oh, I have a rough plan and an easy enough to implement plan, but I have a lot of scope for tinkering. And tinkering is important because I can give you something and it may or may not work for you, but if you tinker with it, you will make it work for you. And that's very important. Because as much as I love you and I can lean into your energies, I don't know you as much as you know you. So the way you tinker with it, the way you change it, the way you tackle it is going to be important for it to really be anti-fragile. Okay, do we hear us? Yes. Thank you. If something's landing for you, still continue to say, whoa, so I know it's landing. Whoa. Thank you. Just saying whoa? Okay. Avoid risk that, if lost, would wipe you out completely. And that doesn't only mean business risk, it also means emotional risk. Right? Because that's the one thing that wipes it out completely a lot of the times. Right? We just get done. You're like, fuck this. Right? And that emotionally wipes us out, and that wipes out our business for no reason. Just because that emotion becomes so strong at that point, because we get so frustrated, so done, that we say, fuck it. Right? So we want to find ways that we can avoid risks, that if we lose, we would not wipe ourselves completely. We'll find something from it. We can rise from the ashes. Yeah. Don't get consumed by data. This is classic. Like, we all do this because it sounds so fascinating when somebody comes up on stage and says, this is 5% better and then 2% more exchange and this conversion rate is going to do this and now blah, 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 and that will work. No, it doesn't. Yesterday we were talking about how much data you can get right now on your body, right? You can go get your genome for $100, right? That human genome, yes, you can get, but that's so much data that a lot of the times, like WebMD does to us all the time, we figure out we have cancer and we are going to die, right? And that's just not true. That's just too much data for meaningless data. There was a research that I was reading somewhere where somebody said every hour, even a financial interpreter, like people who manage the stock market, whatever they're called, stock managers, they get so much information, out of which 99% of it is just noise. And the great people who are actually great stockbrokers can listen to the 1% signal that they get. And that's true for all of us, because we're always getting ads, we're looking at posts, we're looking at social media, we're talking to people, a lot of data, a lot of noise. What's the signal? So don't get consumed by all the people telling, hey, here is 10,000 strategies, here is 20,000 strategies, here is what you got to do, here's what you got to do. You don't need all of that, right? Don't get consumed by it. Look at it for meaningful signal, but that's pretty much it. I remember vividly, there was a point in our life, in our company, even at Mindvalley, where we were getting so much data, we literally had to say, you can keep sending your reports, but on the top of the report, you should have 3 numbers, this, and this, and that's all I'll look at. And if any of these numbers go down is when I need the real report. Because there's so much freaking data. Focus more on avoiding things that don't work than to find out things that do work. And the reason for that is because when you're avoiding things that don't work, you will find some things that will actually work, but there's no way to really find things that do work. There's no way to find it. There's no way to find any entrepreneur comes on stage that tells you, listen, I'll tell you exactly how to build your business, is fucking lying. They know how to build their business. They don't know how to build your business. If they're giving you a framework, maybe they're giving you a framework, good. But if you're telling you do step 1 through 5, they're fucking lying. They're telling you what works for them. Maybe it'll work for you, but it doesn't actually mean it'll always work for you. Does that make sense? Yes? Has it happened to you? Yes. Not yet. But you're more regulated, so you'll maybe never happen to you. What am I teaching you? No, it's going to happen to you. Respect the old. And by old, I don't mean like old in the sense of things that are obsolete, but old things that have worked over time, right? There are habits that have worked for you all the time. There are rules that have worked all the time. And my intention with what I'm going to share with you today is to give you those old rules that I've, at least in my personal lived experience, have tested across my own businesses, and they're not tactics. None of them is going to be a tactic for you. They're all going to be, hopefully, like they have lasted for me, will last for you. At today's point where I am fortunately at a stage of my life where I have a career where I can start a business and make it successful in the first 12 months. It is very rare that I would fail a business in the first 12 months, which was never the case before, of course. I used to fail all the bloody time. But right now, I'm fortunate that I'm at that place, and it's because I don't follow strategies and tactics, and my team will tell you. They struggle to get me to do things, and I'll be like crying for a year before I do anything. They're laughing right now. And it's not because I don't like new. It's just because I know there's fundamentals that I must follow first. And then maybe I'll do new to tinker. But that's me tinkering. I know that's not my point of failure. Okay? So, before we get into the real bones of this, and I'm going to try to give you something that you can hold on to for a really long time that will help you keep building your business successfully day after day. It's a very simple system, but a really powerful one. But before we do that, we need to know, where are we going? Where is it that we want to be 12 months from now? And I only want to think about 12 months because I want to see you in 12 months here again. So I want to talk about 12 months, and if that's okay, if we could just lean into the first 12 months, and then maybe in later we can do a longer exercise as well, or you can do it at your own time. So I want us to write a letter to ourselves into the future, just 12 months from now. I'm going to give you a proposed structure. You do not have to follow that structure. You can follow your own structure, because there are many different structures to go about doing it. But I want you to write a letter to yourself. Start with your current self, okay? But you don't want to say, I am. You want to say, remember how in 2022 you were at Supercoach Experience XYZ, like that kind of thing. So you're writing in past tense as you start, right? So don't write I am. Please don't do that. Because this is a letter to the future self, you will actually end with I am. You'll see how. The second thing I want to write is identify your current fears, things that stop you, things that you're scared about. Then go into what your old self needed to hear. This is kind of me leaning into what you all are capable of, which is coaching yourself, where you go, oh, I think I know what I need to hear, right? So that's where you'll go to say what I need to hear. You can ask yourself advice. You can write the advice that you would give yourself. You can write coaching questions that you would ask yourself, whatever that might be. Then I want you to talk about your future self as you are getting over these fears and beliefs. So as you're writing the letter, you might say something like, well, my fear was I wasn't very confident, and because of that, I asked myself, why am I not confident? And eventually, I came to this conclusion, or here I discovered that I wasn't confident because I wasn't treating confidence like a skill. And so now I have become confident, right? So you're getting over your fear as a story, right? So you're telling yourself that story. And you can go into then how your year unfolded. You can talk about how you ended Supercoach 2022 with an amazing business plan, and then you lean into your future. You were able to take immediate action. You started creating results in your life, slowly building confidence for yourself, or whatever that is that you're chosen, right? And then you start talking about how your year unfolded. Then I went on stage 3 months later at a different conference. I attended this event. I got these 3 different coaching clients. I did the hypnotherapy certification. Whatever that is for you, you say, this is what I did next, right? You want to unfold the year as it's unfolding. And then, where are you now? And this is where you say, and today I am. Does that make sense? Today I am. So this is what you're saying it as if you are. That's your future self, right? But that's the way you end the letter. Now, you can start the letter this way as well. So you can start with the future and go into the past. It's up to you. You can use both the formats. Both are good. But this is just one proposal I had, because usually what I see is we forget. When you write a letter to future self, you forget about the past. We forget about talking about where we are right now. So I wanted to give some structure. And lastly, you can ask yourself, what questions are you asking yourself now? And this is your future self, okay? So here you're asking, hey, now that I am in July 2023, I'm about to go to Supercoach Experience in July 2023. I am asking myself, who are the friends that I'm going to meet? What new rabbit up his ass Ajit has? Or whatever that is. I was just trying to borrow Michael's joke here. But yeah, so you'll talk to yourself as, oh, these are the questions I'm asking now. Because you're still looking at evolution. You're not done, right? You're not achieving life. It's only 12 months. So you want to write those questions as well, so you can lean into that. Cool, so you'll end with that. Cool. The reason why I'm asking for this exercise is because this is probably the single most important exercise that I do for myself. I write letters to myself, or I would write things to myself which will help me navigate or self-coach myself as I journal through this activity. I would do it maybe once every 3 to 6 months. I don't do it very frequent and very often. I probably should. But I do 3 to 6 months, and that usually really settles me in really going, okay, what am I going for? What do I want? Where am I really going for? What is it that I'm really going for? And that really is helpful. So my invitation for you, and we're going to take about 5 minutes, maybe even 7 minutes for this, because it takes a little while. We're going to take 7 minutes for this. We're going to have some soft music playing in the background. I'll leave the slide up here, so you have a structure if you want to follow it. And like I said, you can inverse the structure, right? If you feel that's better for you, do that. Cool? If you could get some music, we're going to take 7 minutes on this on the clock. So now we know where we want to go, at least from our emotional space. We go, okay, this is where I want to be. These are the challenges, these are the concerns, these are the things that I'm going to overcome. This is how I'm going to feel in 2023, right before coming to Supercoach Experience next year, right? So we have all of that. But how do we make that into a thing that we can fall back on, right? Remember the principles around anti-fragility? One of them was it needs to be simple. One was so you don't have one failure point. It was that you can always come back and lean back into some kind of stable structure around the thing, so you can find certain certainty with being open that there's not going to be any certainty, right? But there's some system to it, right? And I needed that in my life because I was at a stage where I was a point of my career where I was successful in career, but I was very unhappy. Not with my career, but with my life. And because I was very unhappy with my life, I realized that was mostly because I was so involved in my career that I forgot that there are other things that do make a life. And that actually propels your career. If you are really healthy, your career is actually going to fly faster. If you have a really good relationship with your partner, your career is going to be better. If you have great friendships, your career is going to be better. Life impacts everything. Everything impacts everything. And I had forgotten that, even if I was in an environment where constantly that was the message. I just couldn't hear it, so I ended up in a situation where I was very successful, but I was just not happy doing what I was doing. And I said, that is because I put so much effort in building businesses that I have not put any effort in building a life. And so I said, I still want to be successful. That's not what I want to compromise. I don't want to become less successful just because now I want to think about life. I actually want to be, I want to have it all. I don't want to say, well, you cannot have a great career if you have a fantastic life. I wanted both. And I didn't want to go live in Bali, which is a great way to have a very cheap career, but not, I mean, it's a great place. I love Bali, but I was just like, I didn't want to make that as an excuse, you know? I didn't want to go to like Thailand or Bali or anything like that. I wanted to live in the place I wanted to live. I didn't want to compromise any part of my life. So I said, I need something that I can fall back on that's easy enough for me to do, right? And so I started to see why I was successful at anything that I did until that time. I said, okay, let me look at it. How is it that I'm able to involve myself with anyone and be able to give them great success in a matter of months or maybe a year or two? Like really any company could come to me and I would be able to do that. So I thought, okay, let's find what are the principles. And what I found is one of the biggest challenges most companies face, especially actually at every stage. It could be a small new company, it could be a large enterprise, it could be a company that is making profit, it could be a company that is not making profit. One of the biggest problems they have is what is marketing. Like if they can solve their marketing, they could solve everything. And the problem with that, and the reason why they can't solve marketing is because they fall for the gimmicks all the time. They go, oh, the new strategy is TikTok, let's all do TikTok, right? Or whatever the thing is, right? There's always a new thing that is happening. So I said, okay, so there is a foundational problem here because we are always going back to, and that's what I was getting hired for most. They're like, oh, we want to increase revenue, we want to increase profit. Now, there are many elements to actually being able to do that, but one of the key things, the first thing that I do with them is be able to help them figure out their marketing in a very, very simple way, in the simplest way that you possibly can. And it starts with what is called a marketing calendar. But a point to get to marketing calendar is the last step. The first step that we get to is what is called actually making the 8 elements, there are only 8 elements of marketing really clear. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make 8 key elements that is going to change the way you market and take care of any of the questions that you might have around that in the next 60 minutes, or 51 minutes as I have here. More like 45. Cool? Awesome. There's a lot of excitement around that. Is there excitement around that? It's a good outcome? Awesome. So the first thing that we're going to answer, which is the toughest question that you always answer and you don't want to answer pretty much every time I ask you this question, is your target market. But I want to define that a little bit further for you. Your target market is the audience you wish to serve. The more niche your audience, the better, especially when you are starting out. There is no such thing as a wrong niche. So if you've ever doubted any of your niches and you say wrong niche, right niche, there is no wrong niche. A niche is a niche. It may look wrong to someone else, including myself, but that's only because it is a niche with very unique preferences. So when we started in coaching, there were 2 reasons to start in coaching. 3 reasons. One was of personal reasons, because I was looking at coaches all the time, and I was hiring them all the time, working with them all the time, and I was like, I don't know why they're so broke. They're amazing. Like, my life is better because of them and all of it, and I was like, I don't know why everybody's broke. So that was the first reason. I was like, I need to contribute to this in some way or another. I'm gifted at this, so let's do it. The second thing that I realized is that everybody was talking to this market only about one thing, and they still do, by the way, which is how to make money, right? How many people do you know in the marketplace that say, how to make more money, right? And that, yes, is a thing that a coach needs, but it's not the thing that a coach needs. If you really think about it, if you actually sit down with a coach and you talk to them, beyond their usual fears, I want to make more money, it is about creating impact, being meaningful, confidence in when you're sitting with a client, being able to deliver a message, being okay with going into a conversation unknown, which are nothing to do with making money. But those are real things that a coach actually faces problems with. And nobody was talking to coaches in a way that made sense. It only made sense if you wanted to make money, but then every other person was talking about the same shit. And that was because they were not coaches themselves. They were marketers who identified a niche, and that's why now they're in crypto. Right? Not all, but you're also in coaching, right? You didn't quit coaching for it. There are people who are like, no coaching anymore, I only do crypto. I was like, great. You were never a coach anyways. Glad you're out. But that's an opportunity market that people were seizing, and so the community was never really served. What I'm really trying to say is when I walked into this space, I was told, you're not going to make it. Too many competitors. Too many people talking to coaches. But nobody really talking to coaches, and nobody really listening to coaches. And that's true for any market that you want to get into. The market, the niche, is so niche that most of the time, people don't even know it exists. But you can only know it when you talk to those people. When I spoke to coaches, I found enrolling client is not a problem if you're a really good coach. Because you're always enrolling. And you're never enrolling. Right? Because you're just talking. And they will see through it, and you will enroll when it's time, once you get over your own bullshit, right? So that's what I found. But then nobody's really working with people saying, hey, how do we get better? Like, if we can get better, you solved all the problems, because we will coach ourselves through anything. You're not feeling confident, coach yourself through it, right? But we were not talking about those ideas, and that created a unique market, and thanks to that, you all are here, right? That doesn't mean, also remember, the people who were looking to make a quick buck are not here, right? So picking a target market is not only about saying yes, it's also about saying no. If you look for a quick get quick rich scheme, you're not going to find it on Mindvalley or EverCoach, because that's not what I sell. So those people are not here. Here are people that are heart-centered. That's why you feel the love, right? Because like, oh shit, I feel the love. My team member that I thought would never break, and I'm not going to give her name away because then she's going to hate me for it, but she said, I don't know why I'm crying. She was just crying for 5 minutes. I was like, why are you crying? What happened? I don't know. There's so much love. I was like, great. Good reason to cry. Good reason to cry. Yeah, there's so much love. But that happens when you find your own unique market. It doesn't have to look like anybody else. Nobody can tell you if it's right or wrong. Only you can tell you what's right and what's wrong. But here is what are the factors that you need to consider when you pick a niche. So if you have niches in your mind, if you have a niche in your mind, here are questions you want to ask. If you can answer these questions, you will be picking mostly the right niche, right? So the first question is, have you operated in this niche? Or have you have a close understanding of the niche? So you don't have to be experienced in the niche, but you want to have some understanding of it. So if you want to work with massage therapists, you need to have some understanding of that business, or massage therapy businesses. Or if you want to work with the financial sector, you need to know something about them, enough about them that you feel close enough to them. You cannot be completely indifferent to how these people are. Not when you start. Eventually you'll get to that point, but not when you start. Okay? The second question you want to ask is, do you have a person, a group of people, an event or community nearby that you can physically interact with to engage this niche? This is very important, especially now that you can do it. Virtual communities are great, but physical is a whole different level. And you experienced that already when you came here. You knew each other before, but now you really know each other, right? You feel the person, right? And you want to do that, especially when you're starting out. Because when you start out, when you really talk to the person, you really go, oh, what is really happening for them? They are not hiding. They can't hide anything from you. They are telling the truth, or you'll know they're not telling the truth. So you can ask a follow-up question that would help, right? So find a community nearby that you can interact with, communicate with somehow, so you can learn a little bit more about them, like learn a lot more about them. Do you see a problem you can solve for this group of people? Ask yourself, what is the problem I can solve for this group of people? It'll become easier when you actually interact with them, but there might be some truth to it already, because you might have already explored that option. Maybe you've already spoken to a few people. Does this group of people generally have money to afford to solve their problems? So the problem that you identify, it might be a real problem, but they may not be interested in paying for it. And while it's a great place and you still will serve, if money is important to you in this career, and if that is one of the things that you want to get out of it, you want to talk to people that are willing to pay money to solve that problem. Right? They need to be willing. Okay? How's this landing for you guys? Thank you. Thank you for the one person that is following the Woe protocol still. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Better. Let's do more of that. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a minute and quickly grab your thoughts around these 4 questions, around the niche that you picked. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take a couple of questions, try to see if I can bring more clarity, because that just helps me clarify things that otherwise I can't predict. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to do about a minute and a half on the clock. And let's write down our thoughts, and then I'm going to take some questions from the group to see if I can help further clarify how to do this. Okay? Cool? So what we are doing is we are doing 8 different elements, okay? If you get these 8 elements clear, you don't have to worry about tactics ever, because you'll clarify these 8 elements, okay? The second element is message, your message. Your message is what you're communicating on a channel. Simpler messages are better for larger audiences. Nuanced messages are better for niches. Simpler messages like be kind is when you become a big company and you're trying to communicate to a lot of people. Just do it. Great message when you're Nike, okay? Be kind. Great message if you are some big company like Mind Valley or something, right? So great messages. But it doesn't work when you're working with a niche and when you're starting out. The more tight your message, the more cognizant, the most appealing that message to that small group of people, the better it is, especially if you understand their language, right? If you say things like, for example, for EverCoach, for the longest time, even today, we say, we help you become a better coach. We don't say you're going to make more money. We don't tell you anything else. We talk about a very specific thing. It almost, if anybody else looks at the website and says, oh, I don't see myself as a coach, out. They don't want to know about EverCoach at all, which a lot of you didn't until you got introduced through Mind Valley, right? But you wanted to be a coach is why, or you were a coach already. Actually, our first message was literally making coaches better or something to that tune. So it was like, oh, you're already a coach. You're already sold to the idea you want to become better. That's why you should know EverCoach. It was that nuanced. And the more nuanced we get, the easier it is for people to say, oh, they see me. I should talk to this person. Because they see me, they understand my problem. Does it make sense? Yes? Give me a loud, be Sydney. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sydney. Nuances for picking a message. Is your message repeatable and applicable? Can they again and again hear this message from you and can do something about it? It could be a reminder. It doesn't have to be perfect. Can you think of day-to-day stories that can relate to that message? By day-to-day stories, it means stories while you're walking in a cafe. Can your message somehow be communicated? Right? Yesterday, Jason talked about how to be evolutionary, not revolutionary, right? Day to day, how can I evolve this message? Day to day, when I'm talking, going to a coffee shop, talking to someone, can I come up with a story? Can I share a story that relates to this message that I have overall? Right? What could be the cues or questions that will trigger stories and ideas for this message to transmit through you? Right? We don't really think about these things. We think about, I should have this message, and we make this message, but we don't think about, how is it that I'm going to tell this message again and again and again, every day, all day? How does that become my vocabulary? What are the triggers? What are the stories? What are the events? How are circumstances that I will create so I have this message going out again and again? And the message is not limited to a message of social media. It could be a message of you telling a story at an event that you're talking to, or people that you're meeting at random places that you're talking and having a conversation with. Doesn't matter. Message is applicable everywhere. And stories are applicable everywhere, sorry. So 3 questions that I have for you. Is your message repeatable and applicable? Can you think of day-to-day stories that relate to your message? What could be cues or questions that will trigger stories and ideas for this message to transmit through you? Let's take a minute on the clock, and then we'll talk about it. Your next thing is your media. Your media is a channel you're picking to communicate with your audience. The number one mistake that you will do by picking a media is that you will pick a lot of different media channels. It's the number one mistake. You're trying to be omnipresent, like Gary Vaynerchuk, our friend, says. He can be omnipresent. He's got like 100 people working for him. Iron Valley can be omnipresent, EverCoach can be omnipresent. We have a lot of people that actually do the work. As much as I reply to all my messages myself, I have a lot of people that help me do the things that I don't have to do, right? And that's the classic mistake, because we hear messages like this: oh, omnipresent, be everywhere, do everything. Why would you not do everything? Make one content, split it into 25 different pieces. You're like, dude, I'm one person, right? And I don't have a budget for this, right? How many of you resonate? Right? Isn't that true for all of us at some level? So we can't be omnipresent. We can't be in every media. So we got to pick one media that we can own. For the first part of EverCoach, we had one channel that we dominated, and that was Facebook for the first 3 or 4 years of the company. For Mind Valley, for the first 80 years, I think there was only one channel, which is Google. That's it. And we got those companies to several $1 million with that one channel. So if you're just trying to get your business off the ground and make your first $100K or first $500,000 or even the first $1 million, you need one media channel. That's it. You just need to get good at it. And getting good at even one of them takes time, effort, energy. It takes a lot of time, effort, and energy, because every media channel is different. So how do we know what media channel to pick? Because if we can pick that one media channel, we can at least go somewhere. Cool? Yes? Awesome. So how do you pick a media channel? The first question you need to ask is, what delivery mechanism do you like on media? Do you like to write? Do you do video? Or do you do audio? There are 3 ways to communicate right now that are available to everyone. Pick one that you like, right? You don't have to be good at it. I'm not saying you're good at it. I'm saying you like doing it. Because what is it that really matters in anti-fragility? You have your soul in it. If you don't have your soul in it, you just have a good strategy, it's not going to last. So you need to like it, because you'll get good at it if you like it, even if you're not very good at it right now. When I started doing video, I sucked. You can look it up on our YouTube channel. I was reading off a teleprompter because I was like, I don't know, but I like doing it. Now I can record a video whenever you turn on the camera, right? But you get good at it. And I'm still working on it. I'm not really that good at it. I'm still getting better. So what you want to find is, what are you liking? What comes from your heart where you go, this is a channel I want to do. This is my thing, right? The second question you want to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with the media technically? Not just, oh, I can do video, but if you want to do Instagram, for example, if that's the channel that you were about to pick, how are you good technically? In the sense, do you know how to flip on the Instagram camera? You know the filters, you know how to edit, you know the reels, you know stories, how that all works. Technically, because technical is completely different than you just talking to something. Right? And technical is a skill that you can develop, but if you are already good at it, that's a good parameter to add to your thing of determinants of how to pick a media. Is this making sense? Third, thank you. Third, would you engage in this form of media even if someone told you that you will fail just because you naturally find it fun? And the reason why this question is because that is how it's going to be when you start. Nobody's going to watch, which is awesome because you can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to comment. Nobody's going to share. Perfect times, because once that starts to happen, every piece you put out is a freaking, troll board. If the people get crazy about it, right? So ask yourself, would you engage in this form of media if nobody watched, if nobody engaged with you? Because it was just fun. It was just fun for you to do. Okay? Let's do that for a minute, and let's pick a media channel, okay? A minute. Next is engagement, and this is one more thing that we don't really plan for, and hence we don't do. Engagement is communication between you and your potential client. What could you engage on your potential client in a conversation? How is it that you can keep an engagement or engaging conversation going? This engagement is also a demonstration of your capability so you can enroll one day. Right? The reason why engagement is so important is because in no marketing plan, usually, there is a strategy written out for engagement. Right? And it's very important when there's businesses like us where you're doing one-on-one coaching or group coaching. Because when you don't talk back and forth, or you just have one-way communication of saying, here's my content, here's my content, here's my content, and you're never really talking back, you're not having a conversation, they're never really fully able to see how capable you are. Now you know why you always get a reply from me personally, right? Because I'm engaging back with you. You remember, you come up to me and you say, I cannot believe you do that. But I know that is the only way I'm really doing something with you. Otherwise, I can just keep talking, right? The reason I said, okay, let's answer questions and do questions is because I can keep talking for an hour. I don't have a problem, but it's not going to do nothing for you, right? But if I engage with you, now I can see you, you can see me, we can have a conversation, we can have a dialogue. And you may or may not sign up right now, but you will remember. Right? And engagement is the key that most of us miss. So what is it that we can do to pull the plan towards engagement? Right? So we actually do it, and it just doesn't become an afterthought. Oh, I have got comments, so I will engage. No, you engage. How are you engaging? Are you engaging with your tribe through chats, texts, or calls? What do you do? When somebody sends you a DM, what is the next step? Just thank you? Or are you engaging them in some way? What is the way that you engage? Are you demonstrating capability through coaching? Are you able to somehow demonstrate your capability while you're engaging with them? Are you engaging by being present in the time of concern or being a voice of reason? This is the critical part. When somebody sends you a message in distress, somebody sends you a message because they are frustrated, somebody sends you a message because they don't know the answer to something, what's your response? If you look at my DMs on Instagram, you would see audio messages going to people that I've never spoken to. I have no idea who they are. They're probably not even my clients. They would ask me a question. I would either send them something, actually as an audio message, or I would send them a link to something that they can watch as a follow-up, right? Because I'm engaging back. If I solve somebody's problem, especially when they're concerned, they will not forget me. Even if they don't buy from me, and that's not the point anyways. Like, if they buy, they buy. If they're ready, they will. But if they're not, great, I still serve them. I demonstrated what I'm capable of. And that's the key. So let's take 30 seconds and write down what are we going to do about that. How are we going to do it? And how are we going to put that in a plan? Let's put a few hours in our day where we just do that. If not a day, at least in a week. It's like, all right, I'm going to put 1 hour. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to spend my time engaging with people that are engaging with me in different ways. In physical space, in digital space, you could text people, which is great. For one-on-one coaching, especially when you're physically meeting people, text them. It's a great thing to do. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Saw your post. Seems like you had a great party. Congratulations. Reminds them, puts you on top of their mind. Right? And when you're on top of their mind, when they do need help, they call you. Okay, so write it down, 30 seconds. Okay, next is sales conversation. Sales conversation is the point where a potential client becomes a client. Now, you've got a beautiful bonus in Start Your Coaching Business that will help you do this, right? But this is another one of those things that we don't really think enough about. We go into events, we go into different circumstances, and we don't really think about how will we start a sales conversation. right? Because sometimes you're too scared of it, or like how Michael is trying to remove those blocks from you. If they're removed, now you know you can just lean into a conversation. But let's think about it a little bit in the sense that we are prepared, because preparation sometimes is all you need for a little bit more confidence that you need to follow on that conversation, right? Yes? So here are the questions. How are you enrolling? Let's ask ourselves, how does the sales conversation start? What is involved in the sales process? Do we know our different products and price points? What objections could a client have in saying yes, and what is our response? How many times have we sat down to say, hey, what is the objection that they might have as they're buying this product? What would be my response be for that? How will I tell a story around that? How will I communicate this? Have we created enough products and price points so if they throw a curveball saying, well, I can't really do a 3-month package, what's my response to that? Do I have a backup plan so I can get an enrollment going and get them started in the journey? Have you thought about that? Simple things to think about once they're in your vision, but things that are important to think about before you start a sales conversation. Simple exercises, simple questions. Then comes product delivery. Product delivery is a critical element, but often it is ignored. Your product might be amazing, but if it's not delivered well, the experience of a client is not going to be positive. This is something that makes an event like this very special. Is because you come in, the product could have been just a bunch of talks from stage. That would have been perfectly okay and acceptable Supercoach experience. But that's not how this is done, is it? There's a mingler party, there is funny speeches, everybody's trying to do dances, there are energizers, we're singing, we're dancing, we're doing things that you're like, what the fuck is happening? But you will remember it. Because that's what effort in product delivery is. And it's not only limited to events, it's unlimited to coaching. When somebody says yes to you, what is the onboarding? My onboarding is we'll spend 2 days together. Because I know if you spend 2 days with me, fucking I'll crush it. Right? My product delivery is going to start at a place where nothing else can start it. I can give you as many courses, but spending 2 days with me is fucking amazing. Because I know how I show up. And I know I'm going to crush it. That we're going to end the day before. Thank you. Because I know who I am. I'm like, this is the best way to onboard a new client is to say, I'm going to give you 2 days. Even if it's not part of the deal. If it's part of the deal, great, even better. I'm going to make those days better. Right? So you got to think about your product delivery. What's going to wow them? What's going to get them to remember it happened? And when we don't think about that, we just show up. That's where we are also anxious. When the coaching is about to start, we're like, oh crap, I don't know if I'm ready enough for this. Right? So let's plan this. Let's wow them. Because when they're wowed, they're going to stay with you for a very long time. Here are some of the questions to ask. Is there an onboarding sequence? Onboarding sequence means when somebody is coming on board, what are you doing with them? Right? So when somebody comes on board, for example, when you walk in through the gates of this event, you get a t-shirt, you get a band, you get a love notes thing, you get all this stuff. That's you getting onboarded into the event. You're already experiencing wow as you're walking through the door. When a client onboards with me, they get a 5-page form that they have to fill that gets them to go, holy shit, I didn't know this about my company. I didn't look at my past 3 campaigns, 5 campaigns. Now I go, oh shit, wow, I know so much more. How are you onboarding your client? What are we adding to add the wow factor? Things that they do not expect. Things like, oh, you want to schedule a 30-minute call? Sure, we can do a 30-minute call. Text me because you're in the middle of a campaign. I want to know how your campaign is going. Yes, it sounds like, wow, that's ridiculous. Very few people actually text you. And even if they do, usually it's about the good news. They never really want to get on a call. Right? But just them knowing, oh shit, you're there for me, you remember my campaign's running, that's more than enough. What can we do to make the experience of the product as good as the product? So the product is you coaching. But the experience of you coaching, experience of how your Zoom is set up, how your background of your Zoom is set up, or how the physical space where you're going to do this is set up, that experience is memorable. So how can you create that as a memorable experience? So the next part that I want to talk about is referrals. I'm not going to give you too much into it for the reason that it's just too early for everyone to really think that much about referrals in the next part. But these are important elements of your campaign. So I said 8 parts. This is part number 7. Referrals. Referrals are the most effective way to keep building your coaching business. We are going to include it in our sheet. I'm not going to include it in my sheet. I don't know what I'm talking about here. This is probably from a different presentation. But what I am really talking about here is, we are going to include it in our presentation is what I really meant. But what I'm really saying is you need to think about how you're getting referrals from your existing clients. The easiest way to build your business is to be able to get referred out by your existing clients. So you want to think about that. You want to put a system around it. And last is re-engagement. Re-enrollment should happen when your clients are experiencing an outcome. Most of us wait for the last day or the last month to reach back out to our client and say, hey, will you re-enroll with me? At that point, we don't know where the experience of the client is, right? It might not be a high point. It might still be great, but it might not be a high point. What's a high point? A high point is when your client had an incredible result. They suddenly realized they lost X amount of weight, or they saw themselves in the mirror and they were like, wow, I am like muscular like I wanted to. They just had a big breakthrough in their business. They had a big breakthrough in their confidence. They finally made that speech that they wanted to. That's the time to re-enroll. You wait till the end. You wait till the end. But when you wait till the end, you don't know where the client is at. Plus, in the client's mind, it's already closed. Especially the last month. It's already like, yeah, we're done. Right? So if you really want to re-enroll a client, talk to them 3 months before the contract is over, 2 months before the contract is over, or whenever they are experiencing a really high moment, that's when you propose it. Best time to enroll. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. So these are the 8 elements. Thank you. Thank you. These are the 8 elements that you want to consider when you're making your anti-fragile plan. And the reason why this is a plan but not so much of a plan is because you will see each of these elements is independent of itself. If you do one of these right, you've got more than one of them right, because if you get, let's say, for example, your niche right, you'll get your message right? So every plan, every step will get you at least 2, 3 really good things. And if you have 2, 3 things, you're not going to fail. That's all you need. You don't need all 8. Last 2, I didn't even care to give you more questions around, because I know you don't need that to become as successful. Whatever you said your version of yourself in 12 months from now, you can get to that version simply by doing part of this plan, part of these elements. You don't need to do everything. How does that sound? Fantastic? Thank you. Thank you.